Question me about my thing, just do your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am. Don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself. And evidently people gon' hate when you coming with a different sound. So don't question me about my thing, just do your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am. Don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself. And evidently people gon' hate when you coming with a different sound. They say, maybe you should do it like this.
My tokers, jokers, and smokers, welcome back to another edition of the Daily Chronicles, y'all. Today's show is going to be nothing but just spitting it raw. I want y'all to understand that. I want you to understand that anybody lightly fucking triggered by anything that's not on CNN or not on Fox News, y'all need to fuck off right now. Period. I'm not going to have to sugarcoat this. From henceforth on, we are going to speak our fucking minds. Our First Amendment right. We're going to shoot it at you AK-47 style, thus flexing two rights in one. You don't like that? Fuck off. That's the truth. I really don't care. My guest today, I just seen her get fired up. And I love it. That's the truth. And I love it. Knowing that that's on my side of the fence and I got people like that backing me and her people, that makes it even more resounding that today is happening. Because today is the spark that people will say lit the fucking dynamite. Because we're going to start calling people out. You don't like being called out? Then don't be a bullshitter, period. So we have a lot to say about our friends at the MCMA. You're going to hear that today. We have a lot to say about a lot of these MSOs that go, hey, we're just trying to make a living. I believe that making a living shouldn't take a living away from someone else. And I'm not the only one. I digress, y'all. Let's just get her in here. My girl, Stacey W, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I definitely wanted to get you on the show. It's too long have people sat idly by and just been quiet about things. You know, people don't understand that, if you don't speak up about something, they're going to take it away from you, or you won't know the better. Americans have more access to medicinal medicines now than they ever have in the history, okay? And that's even starting to be taken away. You know, let's face it, Big Pharma, they don't create, anything but profits and cure. That's it. They create customers. They're not curing anything, okay?
Right.
That's my rant. I'm over with that. I'm sorry. I was watching that live earlier, and I wanted to do it justice. Y'all got me fired up. You know how I am. Enough about me. It is. It's Fired Up Friday. I guess it is. We're doing this one a little late, but I want to know more about you. So welcome to the show. Yo, tell us a little bit about yourself, though. Like, where did you come from, like, childhood-wise?
Well, man, thanks again for having me. This is really exciting to kind of get the word out, as far as workers' rights and all the shenanigans in cannabis goes. But I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit. I'm a big old Pollock, so I spent a lot of time in an area, Detroit, called Hamtramck, which is it's
very familiar.
Of Detroit, where it's like in the middle of it. So my Polish background, had me eating a lot of kielbasa and hanging out with the fam. I've always been kind of fired up, and I don't know really where it comes from. I know we discussed it. I really don't know. I don't know if it's like a past life or what, but I've always had this kind of fire in my belly to make change. Where that source comes from, I still don't know, but it's there. And cannabis has really kind of been the avenue where it does the most justice. I'm finally able to take this fire inside and put it to really good use. And the cannabis industry and the workers of the cannabis industry really need that right now.
So let's talk about the workers real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, you're not just a cannabis advocate, you're a cannabis workers' rights advocate as well. You want to dive into a little bit more about that for those who don't know?
Sure. So, I gave it a shot, several different shots working in the cannabis industry. The beginning was it was in March of 2020, 2 days after the close of the state, pretty much.
Oh, shit.
I started at New Standard, which is a dispensary in Hazel Park, Michigan, about 2 days after the pandemic shut down the state of Michigan. And there was a lot of promises made. A lot of these promises are made to all workers, which is forward movement. You can be anything you want in the industry. We're brand new, anything is possible. And that became very apparent that those promises were not intended on being followed through with. So we decided to unionize, and I spearheaded that unionization effort. And they union busted.
Shit.
I didn't know what union busting was until we were forced to go into mandatory meetings where they tell you lies about what you're trying to do. And essentially, it is this mental warfare of very wealthy people telling you that you don't deserve to have the life that you are working towards. And it was a hard pill to swallow. It was a hard pill to swallow, but that's reality. So after that, I ended up getting invited to work with the UFCW, which was the union that we tried to unionize with in the hemp and cannabis division. And I talked to workers all over the country. And the problem was not just where I work. The problem is everywhere. There are problems in grows, the dispensaries, you name it. Every sector of cannabis, there are massive issues. So here we are. Now I'm just kind of trying to talk to workers and, the psychology of convincing people that they're worth fighting for has been one of the biggest struggles with this. But because you're having me on, the message is getting out there that you are worth fighting for.
I come from a background, we share a similar background of hospitality, and it's interesting because it's the same thing there. And one of the reasons that I can stand alongside you and die on this hill if we need be, okay, is because in that we already know that, that's what it's going to lead to. Okay. There's a lot of cooks and chefs and people that work in the industry that they work so hard for such scraps, You know what I mean? And in terrible conditions. And then and come payday, everybody wants your paycheck. You know, let alone you ain't got you don't even have enough to pay your bills anyways before they take, you know, a piece of the pie, you know. And so it's like, dude, how am I going to eat? I don't know how many nights, you know, in my life personally, I, you know, did some scab work. That's the truth. It was a hired knife situation, but I didn't have any other choice. If I didn't do that, you know what I'm saying, that I wouldn't be able to afford my bills. And there was many nights that I didn't do it just out of, you know, feeling bad for my fellow worker on the line there. You know what I'm saying? But the truth be told, like, I had to make ends meet. There was nights where I went to sleep and didn't know how I was going to pay rent, let alone eat the next fucking day, you know. And no one should have to worry about that in life. It was you that said on the episode that we messed up, you said you don't live to work, you know, or work to live. Neither of that is tautologically, you know, it should be tautologically correct. But to these companies, they'll replace you, very evidently so, within seconds.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. You are a number, you are a cog in the machine. And you know, so when it comes to cannabis, you know, you think it's this like kind of happy, loving thing, right? It has these, there's a lot of different connotations depending on who you talk to. The people that have invested into cannabis, the big people, I specifically want to talk about very large operators, there's the multi-state operators, and then there are single state operators that are vying to be multi-state operators, right? So these people came from other industries. They made their millions and their billions in other industries, whether it be manufacturing, you know, agriculture, you know, whatever it might be, aerospace. And then they're bringing all of the bad practices from those industries. You don't make billions of dollars by doing things the right way. Sorry. So they're taking all those bad practices and bringing them together into cannabis as this like Frankenstein of really bad shit. And when things go wrong, the people that are feeling it aren't the people at the top. They're the people that are working for those people. People like you and me. Workers. We're workers, you know, the hourly workers, the people that are working in the grow, the dispensary, in the lab. They're the ones that are feeling the brunt of these big guys' mistakes.
That's the truth. I mean, we've seen this already happen in the restaurant industry. It's already a thing. Okay. I really didn't want it to happen in this one. You know, that's kind of why I made the switch. But at the same time, if I can do something about it, then we're going to, you know, and that's why we're having this conversation now, you know, and that explains why something like this is needed, you know, and because people don't know. And if people don't know, it's easier to, you know, listen, if some people don't know that the devil don't exist, then it makes it easier for the devil to prove to the people that do know he exists that he doesn't. Right?
Right.
That's the point. So the truth is, we're all the devils. Okay, how many times are we given the option, okay, you push this button and a family somewhere in the world dies, but you can sleep easy tonight and this happens in your life. So you're put in that situation. Well, no one should ever be put in that situation. No one should ever have to worry about, yo, where's my fucking paycheck gonna come from? Or yo, like, this is the one thing I'm good at. Why can't I have my own private, you know, micro business or license or something? Why can't I grow and have an Airbnb, you know? Then you have the whole different fucking conversation on the 5-fingered death punch that bullshit is, you know, that fucking, you know, why are there still people in prison for petty weed crimes? You know what I'm saying? Why, when it's about to be federally legalized? Oh, how do I know that? Well, fucking look at it. You know what I mean? The point is,
it's not in front of everybody's faces, but
right.
there are people
and it should be
wanting that to happen, you know. And
well,
it should,
you know,
exactly.
Trying.
But you know, we're still in a 100-year prohibition of cannabis, so people aren't just going to change their minds overnight, and especially, and that's why it's difficult, or it's been difficult to get the word out that, you know, cannabis, licensed cannabis isn't what it's cracked up to be, and it just because it's in a flowery packaging. And it has some nice advertising doesn't mean it's a good product. It doesn't mean it's a good company. I can't tell you how many times, you know, I tell people that, you know, I work in cannabis in one way, shape, or form. They're like, oh my God, that has to be awesome. Are you just making the money? Yeah. Like, no, about 2 fucking people are making the money, you know?
And I don't know either one of them.
Right. The opportunity and all that stuff isn't there like they say it is. It is meant to have high turnover, which is a big problem, which both you and I know. In hospitality, the turnover it's sad and it's depressing, and you kind of feel like a foster kid looking for a home. And that has become the case with cannabis as well. It is, I want to say, 4 times higher, in my opinion, than the turnover rate than hospitality. I think Headset, which is like a analytics, logistics, I don't really know what the word is, but they take a bunch of data and they analyze it. They have released that there's about a 50% turnover rate. 50 turnover rate. Most people don't last 1 month. The average is 3 months. That's 90 days.
But wait. Hang on. Don't nobody want to work though. So, I mean,
right?
Okay, if nobody wanted to work, hang on. Let's just simple logic here. If nobody wanted to fucking work, then you wouldn't have a 50-something% turnover rate. That means that people want to work, but you don't want to fucking take care of your investment. Fucking period. That's it. Okay, if I were to shadow just from my own background here, that idea. If I'm a chef in a restaurant and I don't think that my people can eat outside of work, we're having family dinners, so I at least know you get one good meal in you, a day. That's my point. They take care of your investments. You understand? I don't give a flying fuck.
Right.
Because if you don't take care of your people, they're not going to take care of your customers. Period. Oh, well, that's working for me now. No. I don't give a shit about asses and seats. I've kicked people out of dining rooms before. That's it. I don't care. Okay, good food takes time. Good workers take time to train. All I can replace, I don't care what you could do. It's what you should do that really matters. Why are we having this conversation?
Right, dude. You nailed it right there. And, when it comes to high turnover, we got to think about like a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the industry, like just here in Michigan alone, there's a big mold problem in a lot of these grows. Why does that happen? Right. Well, you have a lackluster environment. Why do you have a lackluster environment? Who put it together? Well, who did you hire? Did they have any training? Generally, these people don't know what they're doing. They might hire somebody to be their head of grow that might have only been a basement grower, and that's fine. But there is nobody there to train them because they don't care about training. So if you don't care about training, what's going to happen? Well, your environment's going to go out of control. You probably don't have enough workers because they don't want to pay enough people to keep an eye on the plants and train them about how to take care of them, what to look for, integrated pest management. All of a sudden, your grow is filled with mold. Now what do? Well, your investor doesn't want to lose money. So now there's a company called Willow, which is one of many, that sells these $500,000 fucking microwaves that irradiates the weed, and takes the mold off of it. Well, it kills the mold, but the mold is still there visibly. It's fucking crazy. All these problems happen because of the lack of education and lack of investment in the worker, period.
I mean, okay, so let's talk about the worker right there. There is this thing that I'm more familiarizing myself with that, truth be told, and I'm going to be honest, I should have, this isn't something that, without pointing me in the direction, and thank you, I wouldn't have known about it. Doesn't apply to my life, but I do empathize for it. And I think that people should unionize. This is the truth, okay? I think that these corporate entities, the MSOs, don't want people, whether they're MSOs or not, they don't want people to unionize because it's seen as a loss of profits or whatever have you. It's not worth it to them, quote unquote. You know what I mean? However, there is this thing called the WARN Act, which is my very long digress point. What is it, and kind of should we know about it? Just as consumers?
Well, let's look at it like this. So before we get into the WARN Act, you got to figure out why you need the WARN Act, right? So what we're seeing in Michigan, what we're kind of seeing all over the place right now is a lot of acquisitions, of smaller companies being absorbed by bigger companies. And when acquisitions happen, people lose their jobs. And that's what's happening right now in Michigan, where, you have your common citizen who is maybe going bankrupt, who knows? But their main grow in Marshall, Michigan, they just laid off maybe 100 people like that. One day. They had no notice. The workers were given no notice. They then closed 2 of their dispensaries, let go a bunch of people from the corporate side, and then also some people from their processing lab. Over 100 people lost their jobs in one morning without knowing, right?
Snap of a fingers.
2 weeks prior to that, Loom closed 4 of their dispensary stores without warning to any of their employees either. Now, these are in areas sometimes where there's not a lot of opportunity. That the reason those businesses were able to set up shop in a small town like Marshall or, Christmas, Michigan, is because they worked with the municipality and promised them that they would bring good jobs and opportunity in areas that just don't have it. So this was more than just a job to a lot of people. This was really changing the way of people's lives that really desperately needed it in some areas. So now those companies are pulling out because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing in the first place. And hundreds of people are losing their jobs and they don't really have anywhere else to go. Right?
They're really bad at pulling out.
Really bad at right. So the WARN Act, right?
Right.
The WARN Act was made specifically for plants.
Factory type workers, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So it stands for. Oops, darn it. You know what? 1 second. I'm going to tell you.
You're all right.
For WARN, I just had it up and accidentally closed it. It stands for. Okay, so the WARN Act stands for Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification. So it helps ensure advance notice in cases of qualified plant closings and mass layoffs. So that didn't happen, right? That didn't happen with Loom. That didn't happen with Common Citizen. There was no warning given, right? So what the WARN Act can do is it can award employees up to 60 days of back pay. However, there are some criteria that need to be met. Everything is a numbers game. So if you're watching this and you are considering unionizing, if it's crossed you and your coworkers' minds, numbers are a really big deal for unionization, for things like the WARN Act, period. So pay attention to numbers.
That's the first thing that they're going to try and fudge.
Right. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, it will be. Very good point, my friend. So with the WARN Act, there needs to be at least 50 people let go from a single facility, right? And that 50 people at least has to also equal or be more than 1/3 of the total amount of employees in that building. So let's take the number 300, for example, right? Let's say that there were 300 employees at Common Citizen, right? And they let go 75. Well, that isn't 1/3, right? But here's the other thing about the WARN Act. So there's about a 3-month grace period, right? So what some plants and some places will do is they'll start pegging people off and then kind of do like their last dump at the end of like this slow mass layoff. So maybe over the course of those past 3 months, prior to the 75 people getting laid off, there was another 25 laid off or fired prior to that.
That we don't know about.
That we don't know about because they weren't included in this one big lump sum.
Right.
So if there were 25 people that were fired, now you have 100, right? And if you are dealing with 300 people, now you have 1/3. And now you can file for the WARN Act. And that would, like I said, allow grant up to 60 days of back pay, which is fucking huge.
Right.
When you've just been fired and you don't know what the hell you're doing, right?
So for people that, let's say, are, kind of listfully or lackadaisically, following along, why should you care about that and the numbers? Okay, first and foremost, like, we said earlier, it's the first thing they're going to fuck with. That's how they're going to try and make it, and that's how they're going to present it to you because that's how they work, first and foremost. Secondly, I need you to understand that, with 50 people being laid off and the 25 that we don't know about and things of that nature, they're never going to tell you about the truth about anything. That you have to understand that because it doesn't benefit and they don't profit from the truth. Thirdly, when you have people laid off, a lot of people, and this is already happening, are, replacing them with scab workers or shutting down places and leaving the economy, drought in local certain areas, or they're bringing in migrant workers, which, dude, as long as you're paying and they're taking care of it, it's between y'all. I love migrant workers. I think they shouldn't be called migrant workers. They should just be called workers, but that's a different story for a different time. Right. Staying on point here, I know you're not paying them well enough because you can't afford local people. You see my fucking point? So to save the profit margin, you're literally breaking the law, okay? At the same time, I wish there wasn't a law to break there too. So that's kind of where I find myself in, I guess, kind of a philosophical redundancy. But at the same time, gargle my balls. I'm serious. Like, I look at it this way. You're going to sit here and tell me that I can't believe, you know, in a system. Okay, fine. You make me, you know, you got to follow the law. Fine. Then how come they breaking the laws that they wrote? Huh? That's not okay. All right, well, I'm going to start making some laws that you don't fucking like and break them too. Oh, wait, I can't do that because I'm not a fucking millionaire or I don't have money in the fucking bank. Well, that's cool. I'll tell you what, next time I see a Maserati, I'll light it on fire. How's that going to make you feel? You know, it's kind of fucking sad that, like, I grew up idolizing Batman when in reality the Joker was the fucking hero to begin with. You know what I'm saying? If you think that shit's fucking comical, I don't have an issue lighting $8 trillion on fire. I really don't give a shit because my dick is bigger than yours. That's the truth. Let's face it. And I don't need $8 million to fucking tell me that. You know, the fact is, I know the difference between a fucking good worker, period, okay, and a fucking terrible worker. And I'll sum it up in one word: character. And honestly, if you're looking for that kind of character to begin with and you can afford it and you're doing great, fucking proud of you. Well, good on you. But at the same time, if you're a piece of shit business owner, I hate you. Period. You're welcome to my table anytime, but whether you eat is entirely and solely up to you. The fact is, I've been screwed over way too many times by these same kinds of motherfuckers in corporations and unions and shit like the MCMA and all these other MSOs. Stace, remember that little bit of information that I gave to you that proved to you that they're already trying to monopolize on a fucking national level? Never mind what we're trying to do in the state here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, that is very much the truth. Everything is connected.
100%.
It's been more than eye-opening connecting with advocates around the U.S., cannabis advocates, rather, because the similarities of what we're going through is staggering. It's staggering. And I'm talking about on a legal and legislative level down to, you know, local municipalities. The similarities between, you know, Sterling Heights, Michigan and Hartford, Connecticut are wild. And that is not a good thing. No. Because that means that there are a lot of people with very deep pockets who have spread their net over the United States. And they're trying to, for lack of a better word, completely crush our ability to not just grow, but
do anything.
Our will. There's a big, and I'm glad that you brought up, you know, having a philosophical aspect to this, because that's what I studied in college. I studied philosophy with an emphasis in pre-law and a minor in women's studies. So when it comes to looking at this subject, there are a lot of different aspects to it. It isn't just black and white. And
there's morals, there's ethics, you know, there's accountability, there's much more, you know, it's the levity of the situation isn't, you know, exacerbated by one just simple ripple. That's the truth. I'm not trying to steal it away or anything, but people don't understand the levity of the situation. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it goes so deep, it's not even funny.
Yes. And this is about control. It's not about money. It's not about money. No matter what anybody says, it's not about making money. Sure, that's a perk for these people, but this is about control. Right. They've already established the money aspect of things. This is a control issue. This is a control over the people issue. Big time. Cannabis is uniquely disastrous when it comes to the way that workers are treated. And that is by design. It's truly by design. And, you know, I know that there's so much going on in America right now that's not good. And there is this level of, you know, like something's going to break.
Right.
And that break tends to happen with the people that are most marginalized. And right now, that's the workers. It always has been. but workers are being the most marginalized. Now you have a industry that has, let's see, cannabis shot up 81% in 2021 with a 70% annual growth in jobs. Okay. So it seems like there's a lot of job creation here, but it's not good job creation. As we
It's
talked
not.
about, this is turnover. This isn't longevity. This is
Mhm.
also breaking people's hearts, by the way. Like
Yep.
that is a big factor of this. The mental factor of getting into cannabis and then having an industry, because you know it's like religion, right? Like there's this book here and it might have some good things to say, and then there's a bunch of fucking assholes that take it and turn it into something else. And that's what we're seeing in cannabis, right? We have this plant that's fucking amazing. It grows from the earth. You know, we've there's some amazing people that have gone to jail and sacrificed their lives in order to, you know, grow and harvest it and bring it to the masses. And it means a lot to people, right? Cannabis means something to people. So if you elect to say, you know what, man, I smoked weed my whole life. Now it's legal, like, and there's a grow opening up and some dispensaries, man. I'm sick of working at the party store. I'm sick of fucking bartending. Like, fuck this. I'm moving over to cannabis. And you get into cannabis and it's worse than everywhere else you've been.
Yep.
I can't tell you what that feeling was like for me. And then to also watch that same hard to swallow pill wash over my coworkers. And it's very indescribable.
Then when you look at, the consumer, sorry, a little bit of a study. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
All right. Okay. No, we're good. No, there wasn't a delay. I was just being an asshole. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Good, man.
Then you look at how much cannabis is taxed. It's taxed more than alcohol. You know what I'm saying? There's an excise tax. There's a state tax. There's a medical. I mean, and fuck. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Cannabis should have never been taxed to begin with. You know what should be taxed? Fucking churches.
Hey, there's a concept, right?
And so then you were like, well, cannabis sales are being put into the schools. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, they're also talking about making private funded schools now federally funded so that rich people can keep more money. That's what I heard. Because why should my tax dollars going to pay to somebody else's privileged life when you're taking it away from my fucking people? I don't think so, you dumbasses. If that happens, start taxing churches. Right. Period. If you tax every single motherfucking nonprofit, church, or bullshit organization, religious, my own religion included, fine. I don't give a fuck. Tax us. You're taxing everything else in my fucking life. I'm willing to bet if you were to tax that shit, you wouldn't have to tax marijuana or cannabis. Sorry for using that term. But, you wouldn't have to tax certain things. We could do more. The roads would be better. No, I still think that if you adopt, the stuff over in Europe, which they very well do with winters very similar to ours, here in Michigan, I don't know, throw a little rubber on the fucking roads. Make them last longer than 50 years. Stop trying to fix them with Oreo cookies and crumbles and shit like that, okay? Yeah. If the roads are expensive, then why are you building the fucking pathway to Candyland so my ass is diabetic when I drive to Detroit? The fact is, all right, I love Detroit. I love everything about this. I love the fact that you and I are so heated and ramped up about it. It's fucking, Fired Up Friday. So y'all smoke one in my honor, in her honor. This is a fucking great episode. This is going to be the spark of a revolution. I don't give a shit because we're coming. Period. We're coming for everything. Yeah. We're coming for everything they said we couldn't have. If you want to know. If y'all want to know, the truth is right here. Everything that those motherfuckers said we couldn't have, that's what we coming for.
Yep. Virtual high five on that.
Virtual high five. I mean, and that's the truth. And if people don't like that and they can't handle it and they can't see outside their horse blinders, then I'm going to high five you to the face. How about that? I mean, I'm done. I'm done with it. Like, I'm almost done with social media, to tell you the truth. And I just started this shit because it's like people were literally fight over fucking nothing. This is the truth. This is the truth.
That's why this is so important. So we can give people something to fight about that's worthwhile. Stop fighting about bullshit. This is about your future. I mean, this industry, I don't know if you have kids. I don't have kids, but I really like the fact that cannabis could be an industry that the youth today could flourish in, because it's everything. It
Mhm.
isn't just growing. It isn't just retail. It's, packaging. I mean, engineering, everything you can think of to make this cannabis industry what it is. There needs to be people in there doing it. And there needs to be that opportunity. And right now,
If anybody wants to know what cannabis could be, sorry, I look at the alcohol industry. That was my quick point. That was my quick point. Sorry.
Are you saying, because the alcohol industry is fucked, right?
No, it is 100%. So it is, and it's terrible. What I mean by the alcohol industry is like, okay, so what do you mean by that? All right. So I want cannabis to be socially acceptable anywhere a glass of wine is. Okay.
Yes.
I want cannabis to be on billboards and commercials like Budweiser is. So anywhere you see that in the media, just assume cannabis. That's my point. Anywhere you see that with like, hey, there's these craft breweries. Well, these are craft cannabis places. That's what I'm saying. There's home brew. Let's do home grow. That's what I'm saying. And now we've got corporate cannabis, much like in some cases corporate beer, but for some reason they got that figured out, which is weird. But,
right?
I just want to take this real quick second to say fuck the MCMA. Fuck them.
The MCMA.
Okay. But
the MCMA.
I digress. I just think that there shouldn't be a need for us doing what we're doing. I'm going to be honest with you. There shouldn't be a need for this. I shouldn't have to be like, you're fucking up. It's the truth. All right. I want to be able to respect these people and listen, clearly, if you don't do your job right or whatever reason, okay, and you've been trained or whatever reason, y'all motherfuckers don't have a problem with firing people. Okay, well, what happens when, you're working with a local politician and I think that they're fucking up and I think that we should fire them? Huh.
Right?
Huh.
Well, we got the money to keep them in.
Huh. But at the same time, there's a lot of politicians that are terming out, and when they're terming out, it leaves a lot of holes open for a lot of people to do a lot of nasty shit, and we're just in the beginning of this.
Or it leaves, because we got to look at it both ways, right?
Yep.
It leaves the holes open for people to do nasty shit, but it leaves the holes open for good people to go in.
I agree.
Do the bidding that we as citizens have been asking them to do, because most of them have been fucking failures. Right. So this year in Michigan, everywhere, but this year is fucking crucial to go out and vote. No matter where you live, specifically look at your municipality, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're on your local council or whatever it might be, they're not just planning on staying there. Right. Their plan is to move up, right? Like, I want to move up in any job. I want to get promoted. That's what these people are doing too. So in 8 years, they might be your senator or they might be your House rep where they have a lot more pull. That's where all these people start. That's where the nasty shit starts. So really look into where you live and, what the candidates stand for in your area. If they're, what's going to be coming up, if there's holes in your area that people are going to be running for, find out what they stand for.
Speaking of stuff coming up,
yes,
Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Yeah, Jazz Cabbage. So
Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Yes, Tuesday, August 16th, 7 p.m. About an hour after the regular Jazz Cabbage episode, we're going to be doing a special edition with my buddy Tony Paris, who's a lead attorney over at Sugar Law for Economic and Social Justice. And the episode is all about workers' rights. We're going to be going over a little bit of the stuff that we talked about today, but way more in depth, answering workers' questions, going more in depth into the WARN Act, because I'm not a lawyer. I just really enjoy the law. So actually talking to a real lawyer will be super helpful. So if you work in the cannabis industry, tune in. It is going to have invaluable information.
That's Jazz Cabbage Cafe, August 16th, 7 p.m. Dude, I love those dudes over there. Those dudes are great. Some of them I don't agree with, and some of them I do, but that's the beauty of it. We can disagree and still respect each other. But I can't, speaking of respecting, and you'll have to, not pay attention to my ADD. I'm sorry, but I really enjoyed having you on the show. So much so that I'm sure that we're going to do, a show down the road here and kind of catch up on these things. And I would love to do that. And I can't thank you enough for what you do. Seriously, like it takes a lot of balls for someone to just like, enough is enough, and then you stand up to it, and it's interesting because I made, the reference of you lacing up your shoes before, you leave the door, but you were like, no, they're more like boots. And it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. They really are, so, I guess thanks for being a riot maker or a lamplighter, however you want to look at it. That's the point. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, dude. Thanks for creating this platform. And, it takes people like you that has the understanding of, what is actually going on here, and then the tenacity to go and throw it out there. And, honestly, you're doing God's work, son. And I definitely
I've heard that more than once. But it's just the beginning, and it's just the beginning. If you would have watched the show a year ago, you'd have been like, keep going. Yeah. And, it gets better. So that's what I did. And, I'm finding out that there's layers to this shit, that it's not just Michigan, because, there's people here in Michigan like Common Citizen, Loom, Redbud Roots. Hell, I could name more. Just literally firing people because Michigan's the right to work state. Well, if there's a right to work, we should have a right to get rid of these people.
Agreed.
Period.
And we need to vote with our dollar bill. And, we understand that sometimes the only access people have is to go to one of these dispensaries that aren't doing the best things. And you got to do what's best for you. I completely understand that. This is a medicine at the end of the day. However, there needs to be things that are disclosed too. And, we need to vote with our dollar bill. If you can help it, don't go to these larger dispensaries. If there are
local
in your area, make it a point to go out of your way and go to one of those smaller places, because they are hanging on by a fucking thread right now.
I'll tell you that's where the quality's at. Fuck quantity. But speaking of fucking quality and quantity, this has been an amazing, fucking eye-opening edition of the Daily Chronicles. Thank you again to, my guest, the wonderful Stacey W. Y'all stay woke, but don't be fake woke, because those people are assholes. But I'll see y'all on the flip. Peace.